Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mastering Maize and Blue podcast, the series for incoming students to get acclimated to campus on a virtual format. My name is Roman, and today we're going to be going over the Foundations program. It's a program that some of you might be familiar with. If you've already had your orientations, you'd have had a little spiel about that, but we're going to go a lot more in depth today. I'm joined with my fellow co-host, Alexis.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alexis Zerbst. I'm actually a human resource management and political science major. I am now a senior, so this will be my last year before I'm done. I'm involved in Phi Mu sorority on campus. I'm also a supplemental instructor for the College of Business. And my favorite superhero is Captain America. Just a little fun fact about myself.
And as I already said, my name is Roman Bruno. I'm currently deciding on a major at the moment. I'm a first-year orientation leader, and I'm also a sports writer for the Michigan Journal. So we have a great guest on today who's going to provide some great insight into the Foundations podcast or Foundations program. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Georgina Hickey, and I am a professor of history, and I am the director of the Foundations program, which we'll get into in a second. But like many of the faculty on campus, I wear many hats. So in addition to teaching history, I also teach urban and regional studies and women and gender studies. And as of last week, I am the chair of the Department of Social Sciences.
That's awesome. So before we get into the actual content of the Foundations program, we'd like to ask you a few questions about yourself. So what is your favorite part about UM-Dearborn?
So the culture of the institution is probably my favorite part. I've actually taught on other commuter campuses, and our campus really isn't like that. Our campus does have a culture. People know each other. It's big enough that you'll have different people in your classes, but it's small enough that you really can develop relationships. And so I guess it's those relationship pieces that I like. When I started, my first year on campus was the fall of 2001, and my first day of classes was the day that the planes hit the Twin Towers, and I was in this very new community, and it was an awesome place to be, and I really learned a lot about my new community because we could just really dig in and talk about what was going on, and it just felt like home from kind of that moment forward.
I definitely would agree with that because having classes on campus before everything happened, I definitely knew a familiar face, at least in every class I went into, or I was in the university center and I said hi to maybe 2 or 3 people that I knew, because you just always seem to know a familiar face on campus, and that's very comforting to have at a campus that's considered a commuter campus because it makes it feel more like home.
Yeah, the campus is very homely, and even if you don't have a familiar face in a class, you're bound to have a connection with them by the end of the semester, or even 1 or 2 weeks in, from my experience. So even if you don't know a whole lot of people, it'll be really quickly before you find your home and find your group.
So then, kind of playing off of that, this next question, how would you describe campus in the community, kind of based on what you just said, but is any more to add to that?
Well, sure. I mean, part of what brings that character and this connection is that, I don't know, people come from kind of all over, lots of different life experiences, a lot of diversity, and I think it's valued on campus. And people are really interested in finding connections within that kind of diversity. And it can make for really engaging discussions that you maybe never expected were going to happen. I know for a lot of my students, campus is their home base, or their classes, their intellectual work on campus is really what's very grounding for them, even if they have kids and jobs and all of the other things going on. And so that, all these different people with different experiences and different backgrounds having that kind of central focus is really wonderful.
I can certainly agree that the campus and the feel of the community wouldn't be what it is without its diversity. I think that's very apparent as soon as you start, in your first day, that you're going to meet a lot of different people coming from a lot of different backgrounds and places. So just getting to know everyone and experience different cultures and backgrounds is very contributive of the experience once you're finished here. So now that we kind of went over the campus and community, we can go into more of your actual role on campus and some of your main responsibilities.
Okay, my main responsibility is to teach. So I am a US historian, and I teach courses on the history of American City, on women's history, on history's social change, late 19th, early 20th century. Those are all things that I teach, and they overlap with these interdisciplinary programs. So one of the fun things about our campus, particularly the College of Arts, Science, and Letters, is we have a lot of interdisciplinary programs where you get to look at central problems and ideas from many perspectives, and I am deep into those. So a lot of my classes are cross-listed, meaning they count for different programs, which is also fun. So in my class, I often don't have a lot of history majors. I have a good number of political science majors and women and gender studies majors and folks from different programs. So I teach classes. I do some administrative work, directing this program that we'll talk about, and also running a large interdisciplinary department called Social Sciences that has political science, economics, history, urban and regional studies, social studies, and geography all packed into it. And then the other part of my job is I'm a researcher, and I research and write history. I wrote a book on the history of working class women in Atlanta at the turn of the 20th century, and I am finishing up a book on the history of women in urban public space in the 20th century US.
Sounds like you're quite the busy person on campus. It's great to be involved on campus, even as a student, because there's so many different things you could get involved with. But out of all of those things that you just listed, with this next question, what do you think is your favorite part about the job?
Well, it kind of changes. I have to say my favorite part from the last year has been having undergraduates actually work on my book project with me, which is something kind of new. Historians, we're kind of trained to like go lock ourselves in a library and not talk to anyone. That's at least how I was trained many years ago in graduate school, and that world has changed. And now I've gotten so much more interdisciplinary in my own work and collaborative, and I've been able to bring students on board. So I had a student, for example, working with me over the last year on laws, perceptions, and controversies around breastfeeding in public. And she was a political science major and really interested in the policy aspect of it. I was more interested in kind of social, cultural aspect. But it was, it was everything a university should be. She learned lots of things, and I learned lots of things that I never could have lectured about. It was us working on the research together, and it is a very important part of chapter 8 of my book.
That's amazing. So now we can go right into the meat and potatoes of this conversation, the Foundations program. Obviously, I said earlier, if you had orientation, if you've been to orientation already, you would have had a little introduction to it. But for those who maybe haven't registered yet or have no idea what this is, give a little preview of the Foundations program and who is it offered to.
Okay, so Foundations is a program that's coming out of the College of Arts, Science, and Letters, and we're actually requiring students in that college to take one, but the courses are open to any, and very recommended for any students coming in, whether you are a first time on a college campus student, if you're a first year, or a transfer student. If you're in the College of Arts, Science, and Letters, you're definitely going to take one, but if you're in one of the other colleges, I would very much recommend that you take them. So what are they? They are small, very intentionally designed seminars. So these are courses that are going to have a lot of discussion, a lot of inquiry behind them, and they are designed to help introduce students to the life of the mind, the role of the university, and what's going on there. So the program is really just a collection of courses. So we have about 28 different courses that students can choose from, and they span a wide range of disciplines. But all of them will give you a couple of key elements, which are things like good connections to other students, because these are smaller classes. you're going to have a chance to connect. Good connection to a faculty member. Even if they're not in your major, and they most likely won't be, they're going to know you and know something about you, and they're going to be a resource for you. You will have someone you can go ask when you need something. How do I do this? Can I ask this? Should I do this or that? Say what I was just talking about, being a research assistant for a professor sounds awesome. How do you position yourself to do that? Well, your foundations instructor is going to be the first of hopefully many professors that can help you start preparing and planning for that. So these are courses specifically designed for folks who haven't been at the university before. And they're designed to get them connected, to help them develop the skills they need at the university, to understand what university expectations are. They're open to any student coming in. They're required of Castle students. And we have both 100 level, so kind of entry level, and we have 300 level, so that if you're a transfer, you can kind of choose. If you're a FIDIAC, if you're a first time on a college campus, you probably want to aim for the 100s. We want these courses to be useful to you, so they also fulfill at least one gen ed requirement. Does everybody know about DDC? Has everyone met that yet? So that's Dearborn Discovery Corps, what we call our gen ed requirements, our general education requirements, and everybody has to meet them. So these courses offer you a way to meet some of those requirements in this very intentional, supportive environment, all based around cool topics that are things that the faculty members are very interested in. That was a lot. How was that?
That was good. I think right away for orientation leaders, at least when we were introduced to the program, when, I have a talking point for freshmen or any transfers who have that questions about that as well. We could see how valuable the program is and what it'll do for the freshmen and transfer students who are in those courses. And I kind of wish maybe they were available when I was a freshman, but I can appreciate that it's being offered for them, especially during their first semester.
Yeah, there was a survey that was done of current students, and we were already deep into planning this program, but it validated a lot of the things we were looking for, because we saw again and again students that kept saying, I wish I had known. And so we took all those things and have tried to cram them into these seminars. I wish I had known I could have done a study abroad, but it would have taken me a year to plan to go. So we're going to try and make sure that students get introduced to resources on campus, tutoring resources, library resources, all the student orgs. Those are great resources for making connections and finding a passion and all of those things, and get students exposed to them early on, so we don't hear quite so often, I wish I had known.
I really love the fact that you point out making that connection with your professors, because I find that super important. Because my first semester here, I definitely was just a business major, and I kind of knew I had an interest in political science, so I took that political science 101 course, and I really enjoyed my professor for that, to the point where I felt comfortable going to his office hours and discussing with him, like, do you think like a second major in political science is something that would be valuable, or would a minor be better? So I was able to go talk to him about that, because I felt that I made that connection, and he actually gave me a really great advice, which now leads me to being a political science major as well as business. So it's just really nice having those professors on campus who you can go to for advice, who would help you, like if you needed a reference or anything like that, or a recommendation letter. It's really nice to have those, and I'm glad I do.
Or even if you want to ask for a reference and you're not sure how to ask, like I kind of feel like anyone that's in my first year seminar, is in my foundations course, I'm going to be there for them all the way through. So the first time they have to go do that, which frankly for some of us was scary, right? I remember the first time I ever went to a professor's office hours, and that was scary, right? We want to demystify some of that and support students in doing, in asking for what they need and getting out there. And I love the story of, you took a class and found an interest, and that's what the liberal arts are all about. And that's foundational to a university education, that kind of go explore, see what's out there. And our courses very much embrace that, especially when you look at the titles of the kinds of things we're offering. I think you'll see we very much embrace that idea of go explore.
There's many avenues to explore at this university. I love it. So why exactly did the university like feel this program was necessary? Like, I'm sure you touched on this a little bit, but like, did you, like you said, you did surveys? Were there other things that everybody looked into that made this seem like this, we need this, like this will be useful?
Yeah. So, I mean, some of this comes from our own experience. This is a program that was not designed by administrators. This was a program that was designed by faculty. And it was based around a lot of what we were seeing in our classrooms. And then, because we're good faculty members, we went and did research and said, you know, what research have people done on the experiences of students coming to college, especially students like the ones we get at Dearborn, right? Folks who maybe have not followed a traditional path to school. What do they need? Because we could see that we have these wonderful students who were struggling sometimes, and they weren't struggling, they didn't need to struggle. And we thought, well, maybe we could anticipate some of the places folks run aground and try and smooth the way a little bit, especially for example, first generation college students, people who are coming out of families and homes where they don't have a role model who's maybe kind of shown them the ropes for how things work at a university. It's not like high school. It's not like community college. What are the norms here? As faculty, we just sort of expected, because most of us never left the university, right? We're just overgrown students. You know, we don't always tell students what we expect. So one of the things we said is, let's dial this back. Let's actually make sure we're telling students why we expect these things, what they are, and see if we can help students get over those bumps, build up some resiliency. Because, right, it's hard that first time maybe you got a grade you didn't expect. Yeah, what do? You know, a lot of people, I've seen so many wonderful students like take it really personally and give up. And I don't want them to give up, right? I want them to say, whoops, that didn't go well. I need to take a different approach. And I think I can help them if they better understand why we assign the assignments we do, what we expect of those assignments. And also, I think I can help them if I'm just there saying again and again and again, if this isn't working like you want, come and talk to me and we will figure it out. And I don't always have the luxury of doing that in all of the classes I teach, but this class is built around it. So a lot of why we were doing this is we wanted to make sure that everybody had a chance to feel like they belong, to know what was expected of them, and to be excited about the kinds of intellectual connections and social connections that come from being at a university.
I think one thing to also mention when you talked about the different reasonings why we have to put this in front of freshmen to get them to establish more connections with their peers or staff or faculty. I was looking at the titles of these classes, and some of them are a bit unorthodox, maybe, of what you would normally expect. I know one of them, American Horror Stories. I don't think anyone would expect that to be offered to any at their school.
We have two classes on horror. Two.
Yeah, I think the American Horror Story one actually filled up so quickly because everyone took a great interest in that. I think it's not necessarily just about the academic side; it's also maybe personal and maybe a little bit more fun in the classroom.
Well, our faculty, you know, we all got excited about something or we wouldn't be doing this, right? One of the greatest things about being a faculty member is you get to pursue the things that you're curious about. And these classes they're a chance for a lot of us to kind of teach that, to show off our field. So we have a physicist, for example, he's actually an astronomer, teaching a class, and it's his chance to convince the rest of us, right, that physics is something that we all need just at least a little bit of. And like, that's exactly the kind of class I would take, because taking the straight up science class, if it weren't biology, it wasn't going to be for me. but I would love this kind of framing of like, hey, you live in this world, this 21st century world. What physics do you actually need to know? Like, that's cool to me, and I would take that. So I think there's a level of excitement around what, because we get to design these cool courses that I hope translates through, and that the students get, that you all get excited about the classes you take.
I definitely agree with that. I'm not a big, huge science fan, but if there was like maybe a mini course on biology, that'd be totally up my alley, because that was definitely my favorite in high school out of the 3 science courses we were required to take.
And you have to take some science here.
Right.
And also, you said like it's not just strictly a science or math. There's various topics, and they all relate to the now, all relate to current day. So it's not maybe what you would get out of a normal science or math class. It's all relative.
We have a math class where you'll read poetry.
Wow.
Unexpected.
Yeah. So you also kind of touched on, the goals, but what are other goals and objectives of the Foundations program?
Well, you have them there on the screen. So, we want you to get some requirements out of the way early on. And I know the advisors are sending that same message in orientation. You want to chip away at those. We want folks to know how the university works. And that runs the gamut from knowing when a professor says write a paper, what that means, to understanding kind of the process. For example, I'm a department chair. What does that mean? People run around going, where's the history department chair? Well, there isn't one, because we have this unusual structure with these big departments. I'm tucked into a department with several other disciplines. So just kind of knowing how the university works, kind of on the nitty-gritty level, but also in terms of universities as producers of new knowledge. We do research. That's where our qualifications really come from as faculty. The campus resources, so there's so much, and I know you folks know this, and I hope that the incoming students are learning about it. There are so many resources on campus, but a lot of times it's hard to know where to start to find them, who to ask, and we're intentionally going to kind of help students get a sense of that. And whenever I can, I always take a student to the next person. I may not know how financial aid works, but I know people in financial aid, and I will make sure you talk to the people in financial aid who can answer your questions. In terms of kind of getting you set up for success, these are not like basic study skills kinds of classes. These are about like kind of university level skills, like critical reading skills. How do you pick apart, in my class, an article on theory, kind of big, dense words and crazy ideas. And if we have to do it line by line, we'll do it line by line. That's the kind of skill set that we're working on. Don't worry, it's cool, really, once you figure it out. It's just, it's like fun ideas about how the world works. It's great. So we'll try and demystify some of those skills. And then of course, making those connections, making sure, and it's not all about me and my students, right? I know that 90% of what's going to make that class work or not work is the interaction between the students in the class. You guys are each other's best teachers in a lot of cases. And there's a wealth of knowledge sitting in the classroom or online, if you turn and ask the person next to you or make that effort to reach out. And you're going to feel so much more at home once you know a few people and they know you.
I totally agree with your peers have so much knowledge to share, because I see myself having great discussions in the classroom, and I realize that I learn even better when I try to explain a concept to another student. So it just reinforces my knowledge and then helps somebody else in the same way. So that's a really good skill to have, to know that you can explain the concept on your own after the professor's told you, and then let alone have a student understand what you're saying. It just really reinforces that concept for you.
It's a great test, isn't it? Do I know this? Do I know this well enough to explain it to someone?
Exactly.
Yeah, everyone needs soft skills, so this is definitely a great opportunity to maybe hone in on those skills if you haven't already, as well as something you haven't mentioned yet, doubling with a foundations requirement and DDC. So there's always the opportunity to knock those requirements out at the same time.
All right, I'm going to hit that one a little bit harder. So while foundations are required of students in CASEL, it's not an extra or different requirement. It's probably better to think of it as this is a vehicle for getting all these other benefits and knocking out some gen ed requirements on the way. And not just CASEL students, we're happy to have everybody. If you're new to campus, we would love to see you.
Awesome. So how about you point us in the right direction to look at the resources to explore all the different foundation courses before a student were to register?
Yeah, I very much recommend that you do this, because while we have common goals for all of the seminars, each one is unique and different and special because it came out of a faculty member's particular passion or interest. So if you go to the College of Arts, Science, and Letters homepage, you can search for foundations, and a list of all the classes will come up. And I mean, I can tease a little bit because I have a booklet, but there's a PDF of this booklet that's up there, a little bit more about the classes, about the professors, because the professors, you know, they're an integral part of this, and it might help you choose. Also, it'll tell you which DDC, which gen ed requirements each class meets, so you can strategize a little bit around that. I think personally, if there's a category of gen ed that makes you a little bit nervous, I think foundations is the way to meet that requirement. Like, because those faculty are so committed to your success and getting you through and you know, finding you whatever you need to get through. It seems to me to be like a particularly supportive way to go. Like, okay, I might take my math class. There's 2 math classes in foundations. I might take my math requirement through there. But yeah, so we already mentioned American Horror Stories. We have a class on the artistic cultural exchange between France and Japan. We have a course on language and digital media. We have a couple courses that touch on kind of current politics, one on voting, one on activism. Can I plug my own class? My class is on passing, is on people who are born into one social category but live as another. Mostly we know about racial passing, but we'll do gender passing and some other forms of it as a way to kind of pick apart what social identity means. We have a class on Jack the Ripper. Oh, sorry, Jack the Ripper is already full. We have a class on restless women, which I love. These are women who didn't exactly follow the rules. We have a class to infinity and beyond. That's one of the math classes. Hope and joy in queer and trans lives. A class that considers the kind of nurture versus nature debate. Biology is not destiny. Physics, I already mentioned. I'm sure I'm missing some. But that's just sort of a smattering of the ones we have out there. Most of the classes we're offering are in the fall. If somebody just can't make it work in the fall, or they see on the list for winter something they're super passionate about taking, it'll be there for you in the winter term. But I would really invite people to go to the CASEL Foundation's webpage, take some time looking through the course descriptions. And if you're unsure, you can email the faculty member and ask them, and you know, check them out, see what you want to do. I'd say in terms of picking, this is maybe something you're going to ask me in a minute, but I'm going there now. In terms of picking courses, you know, a lot of times students get to campus and they're really eager to get started on their major. I actually really appreciate, Roman, that you're undecided, which is our largest major. It's, you know, that's great. Go explore, right? Foundations is a place to go exploring. I would recommend you do not try and take a foundations course in your major. You might want to take something that's complementary, that's adjacent to your major. But really, this is about getting some DDC out of the way. The DDC, the gen ed requirements that are covered by your major, you're going to get those out of the way just by taking your classes in your major. This is, so think about some of those other requirements. And this is a place to just pick something that seems interesting. Or maybe you don't know anything about France and Japan. Like, hey, here's your chance. You can go look at the connection. There's like this fashion exchange and art history. It's really cool stuff. And let yourself be open to something new. So I think for foundations, pick based on the DDC category that it meets and what you need, and something that interests you, not your major. You're going to have plenty of classes in your major.
Yeah, I think this is definitely the perfect opportunity to maybe get out of your comfort zone, maybe choose something outside the box, learn something new. Definitely a great opportunity for that. Also, I recommend checking out this website, of course, before your orientation if you haven't had it already. But even when you go into Schedule Planner, when you're actually registering, you'll be able to see the different foundations courses and like even a little description of that as well. So you have those two resources right there to help you, prepare before you register. So now we have, obviously there's been a recent announcement that, classes will be a mix of in-person or remote instruction. How does that affect foundations, and or if you know offhand, which classes will be in which category?
We have a plan, and it probably doesn't make sense to list everything out right here. Mm-hmm. So I will tell you again to go to the website, and when you look, each class essentially has its own page on the website, and when you look at that, it will tell you the mode in which it's going to be offered. That is accurate and up to date right now. So if you want to know how it's going to be offered. So when we designed these, we really had envisioned physically bringing people together, sitting down together, looking across the room at each other and exchanging ideas. All right, this is not the moment for that. So we've all pivoted, and we are going to be teaching at least partially remotely. So we have classes in several modes. So we have some that are fully asynchronous and remote. So they are online. There will never be a single time or day when everybody has to be online together. They're built to work asynchronously. So fully online. And then we have a number that are hybrid. Some of those classes are hybrids that will meet in a Zoom call or something like that. And some of them are hybrids that might, if we're allowed, meet on campus, but no more than once a week. So for those hybrid classes, whether the class meeting is online or on campus, you'll need to know the day and time. And those are all listed on the Castle Foundation page. So you can really, like if you go look at my course, it'll say, we're gonna be a hybrid class and we're gonna meet virtually via Zoom on Mondays from 12:30 to 1:45. And hopefully that gives you the information you'll need to plan out your schedule. One of the things that we've added to foundations that wasn't something we anticipated doing when we planned this is we very much intend to support students who are doing remote learning. This stuff's hard, and probably a lot of you coming to campus had a rough time of it wherever you were in high school or at a community college or on a different campus this past spring. We did too. We're going to be able to be much more intentional and supportive and help you kind of develop those skills. So it's a good way to help get used to online learning. So if you're a little bit hesitant, please don't be. The faculty are going to be there for you in learning these skills just as much as we're going to be there for you in learning how to write a formal paper. I hope that's the intent. So, but we do have the different modes. Like if you really, really, really love real-time discussion, there are absolutely classes that will have that. For other folks, maybe you're going to have kids home from school this fall, and you just don't know if you can commit to that. We've got some that are fully asynchronous and online. So I know it makes it more complex in choosing, but there are options that I hope meet everybody's needs.
Yeah, it's definitely a learning curve for everyone, even returning students. I know at the end of my freshman year. Last year, it was just the last couple of weeks we had to go online. And even then, it wasn't that necessarily that bad because we were just kind of tying up loose ends and wrapping up the semester. But I think it'll be different actually starting a semester online, especially freshmen starting their college career online. It'll be a lot different, and we need to support the students who choose to stay safe and learn at home.
That's why it's great, though, to offer those different methods. I definitely appreciate that. For example, my first summer semester, I had a class that was where we met twice a week online on a Zoom call, but then both of my classes this summer semester, it's asynchronous, and we watch the video lectures and we do the work and turn it in when the due dates are. And it's just nice to be able to feel out both ways and see which one works best for you and your lifestyle.
Yeah, I really hope that we've offered students a good range of options. We know that it's tough and we want you to do well. So hopefully somewhere in here you can find a combination of factors that works for you.
So with all of that, what is some advice that you'd give to a new student coming to UM-Dearborn?
Oh, it's probably not going to sound like a surprise after all the other things I said. Get involved and make connections. And it's probably going to be a taller order when a lot of your learning's remote. And I know that. But when you get into your classes and you look at the website for your class, over on the left-hand side, there's a button that says people. And you can get the emails of your classmates and reach out to them. Form a study group. You can hang out on a Zoom call and study together. Like, it's definitely going to be more work for students. It's going to be harder than just like turning to someone after class saying, hey, can I borrow your notes? But I think because that option isn't probably going to be there for most of your classes, it's so much more important. Be creative, reach out, know that everybody else is doing that too. So I really think that students getting into that mode early on of like, I gotta make some connections here would be good. And then the other thing, and this comes because I have taught asynchronously online for a good number of years, like before there was a pandemic, and where I see students get messed up, even like good students who really mean to try, you've almost got to make a schedule for yourself for an online class so that you show up, so that you're actually there doing the work kind of regularly. And however that works, I mean, I have a lot of students that post things at 2 a.m. I'm not reading them at 2 a.m., but that's what they needed to do. That's great. And if they can maintain that and they're staying involved in the class, great. But the students who are most successful are usually the ones that have mapped it out. They've set aside chunks of time to work on those online classes. They've almost kind of created like an on-campus like schedule for their online classes. So that kind of organization I recommend. And then on the other side, it's making friends, making connections, getting to know people.
I totally agree with that. At my summer class this semester, before it even started, somebody had emailed everybody saying they created a group chat so that if anybody has questions, we just shoot it right in the group chat, like, oh, hey, when's this assignment due? Or, oh, I'm having trouble with this link. Can somebody help me? And it's just nice to have something so easy. Everybody always has their phone, so just a simple text message, and like you'll get like 5 different responses from 5 different students, and it's just nice to have those resources just at your fingertips.
Oh, that's great. I love hearing that students took the initiative. I think it probably means more when it comes from you.
If anything, I think also remote learning also gives students the opportunity to reflect on maybe what the kind of learners that they are, whether they're best visually or a good note taker. I think that's something that they really gotta figure out before they start classes or choose their classes, so they don't let the online course and the online workload dictate their life. You want to be in control of the schedule that you make and how you want to, like you said, if you want to upload a paper at 2 in the morning, then so be it. But if that works best for you, then it'll probably be better off for them. So obviously, take control of your situation. And as Alexis, you kind of alluded to, don't let the online learning stop you from making new friends. Obviously, just reach out to anyone, and you'll make those connections in group sessions. So on a lighter note, this is very informative, but what do you have any fun facts about yourself?
I never know how to answer this. Well, my usual answer is I'm really fascinated by public bathrooms. Um, my book is on women in public space in the 20th century U.S. So long before the bathroom issue became the political hot potato that it has in the last few years, it's something I've been interested in. Is, if you want to know if you belong somewhere, look around and see what labels there are that invite you to be a part of public space. So I've long been interested in public bathrooms, which is fun, and my students know this about me. So for years, I have had students sending me pictures of interesting and unusual public bathrooms from around the world as they go off on their travels, and I love it. So if you have interesting public bathrooms in your world, I realize we aren't getting out so much right now, but at some point, I love to see them.
Yeah, it is very interesting. Alexis, do you have a fun fact about yourself? We can all do one.
My go-to fun fact is usually that my favorite animal is stingrays, just because it's kind of out of the blue, and I've swam with them 2 different times on vacation, and I love it. So yeah, that's my fun fact. How about you, Roman?
I'll go a simple route. I'll just say I have a cat. Her name's Bella. It'll be a year in September since we got her, so it's been really nice, and especially coming from someone who hasn't had those types of pets growing up. I was just a fish guy, so this is definitely a new experience for me.
Excellent. I always encourage my students to have their pets join them when they record videos for my classes. I like to see them. Pets, houseplants, books.
My dog has actually joined a few of our orientation Zoom calls at our morning meetings, because she just jumps right up near my kitchen table and puts herself right on the screen. So
Same.
Yeah, this whole online remote learning, we get to see different environments. Break down some of those barriers.
definitely a lot of fun. So this last couple slides, we have just some contact information, Professor Hickey's email address, and the STAR Advising email address, and that website once again, where you can see the list of foundation courses.
Absolutely. I would definitely take note of this, especially on the website when you kind of figure out and prepare for your orientation and what you want to register for. And then as well as start advising, just getting to know your advisor a little bit more, and establishing that connection too before you start the semester, which is just as important.
And I would invite you again, if you see a class that you're interested in and you're just not sure, you have some questions, you want to know more about kind of how it's going to be taught in the fall, I invite you to email the faculty member. Just put foundations and the course number in your subject line, and I'm sure everybody would be very happy to give you more information on the class. We're so excited to finally get to offer these classes. We'd love to talk with you about them.
Yeah, it never hurts to reach out, for sure. And lastly, if any of you guys watching want to keep updated with our Mastering Maize and Blue series, you can visit the website that we have on the screen. We've had all our previous recordings up on the website, as well as our Instagram lives that we've done in the past. And we'll definitely have a schedule of future episodes, and we'll definitely keep you updated with that.
So I would just like to take the time. Thank you, Professor, for joining us for this podcast. It's been a great bunch of information that's going to be super useful to our incoming students. So we just appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks very much for letting me share about foundations.